Jesus' followers were living in the disorientation that comes when a central figure in our life dies. Whether family member, close friend, mentor and guide, special confidant, when someone who has had an important role in our life dies, life goes out of sync. Everything is different. Making sense in the world has to be reframed, and our well-being seems on shaky ground. All disorienting grief requires time to live through, time to absorb the loss, time to incorporate the experience into your life before you can move on positively and creatively into the future. When the death is violent, like that of Jesus, or perhaps unexpected, or a death unusually traumatic in other ways, one usually needs more time to reorient before moving on with life in meaningful, healthy ways. Families can be left adrift, sometimes even falling apart with the death of the one who held the family together or who was the switchboard operator that kept the communication flowing. Entire communities can destabilize when a prominent figure, a key leader in the community dies. Perhaps the anchor of the community who held firm and strong in the midst of tumultuous times, providing safety through risky adventures, calming fears in anxious moments. Or maybe the death was of the history bearer who repeated the story of the community over and over again as the story shaped generation after generation until it was becoming everyone's story. Or maybe it was the risk taker, always with another adventure, a new challenge, which kept everyone moving forward, holding complacency at bay. When a community loses its most central figure due to death, or even retirement, a new commitment, or whatever reason, the impact is greater still with reverberations to the community for years to come. In fact, whole movements have ended, completely disappeared, when the central leader is gone. With these kinds of losses, it's as if the sand is shifting under our feet. We can't find our grounding. Stepping forward on our shaky legs is impossible, at least for a time. The future is unclear, if we can comprehend future at all. The future of the entire movement, the community, the group, is uncertain at best, possibly in danger of dissolving completely. Through these shaky times of disorienting grief, some regain their footing more quickly than others, incorporating the experience into their lives, learning from what has been, finding strength and wisdom from what has gone before, drawing together the pieces of what the leader has left behind and shaping them into a new future. With eyes focused on what is yet to be, they reorient their energies for the future, using the past as a creative springboard for something new. For a variety of reasons, recovery is a much longer process for others. It can take a long time to feel again firm ground underfoot. Energies stay focused on the loss, on the past. Pain and uncertainty linger. Looking to the future is nearly impossible. Forward motion is blocked. The movement, the community, the group is at a standstill as life goes on, but sometimes with little energy in life. Some never really do recover in the aftermath of loss, and one who has impacted their life significantly for good or ill. Some continue to define the rest of their lives by pain, uncertainty, anger, fear, as the loss determines their choices, their sense of self, their sense of the world. We find Jesus' disciples in the early stages of coping with Jesus' death. A sudden, probably unexpected loss, a violent, traumatic loss for no apparent good reason. We find Jesus' followers, the distance. Now Jesus was gone. Or maybe not. Post-death appearances have been reported, experienced by several, but it was a confusing time, a dangerous time, with the future hanging in the balance. What would happen to the movement Jesus had started? Jesus' group wasn't the only religious movement of the day. Many had come and gone. Several were still around, attracting larger and larger followings as the leaders moved through the region, drawing others in with their teachings, their preaching, their charisma. Some people moved from one religious group to another. Jesus' movement, which had looked so promising, with numbers growing increasingly, now had no leader. His followers were not exactly sure what had happened, how all of this had come about, how all of this seemed to have gone so wrong. They may have worried that their own very lives were also in danger, perhaps wondered what to do next, needing to decide something, to take some action, not able to sit there gathered together forever. Perhaps they too should just find a different religious group, or maybe just go back to the fishing boat, trying to forget the whole experience. It's hard for a group, a community, a movement, to remain together without its leader. Without the life power of the leader, many movements fold, many communities disappear. Rather than moving forward, it's much easier to focus on what would have been, what could have been, what should have been, if only. It's easier to focus on looking back. It's easier to live looking back, caught up in what could have been, rather than moving forward with what is yet to be. This morning's scripture passage begins with those who had followed Jesus gathered together, discussing all that had happened, all that they had experienced. And suddenly, Jesus is right there with them in the midst, saying, "Peace be with you," almost like old times. But of course, nothing about this was like old times. Overcome by fear, they see what they think is a ghost. Panic sets in. We know that feeling, the adrenaline rush, preparing us to protect ourselves from the threat, or at least the perceived threat, getting us ready for flight or fight as we contemplate running away as fast as we can or fighting with everything within us. Jesus tries to calm them, showing them it really is him. He really isn't a ghost. As they are filled with sheer joy and wonderment, skepticism sets in as Jesus continues reassuring them. Now, of course, Jesus will not convince them everything is just as it was, because, of course, nothing is just as it was. And while he appears to him in the moment, it is only in the moment.